There are upsets, and then there are upsets that feel like a clerical error. Because if you just read the yardage totals from this game, you'd assume Carolina got handled. And if you watch the highlight package, you'd assume Carolina got lucky. But if you watch the whole thing, if you actually sit in the full 60 minutes, you'll see a team that can't move the ball refusing to give you the ball. You see a defense that doesn't bend because it doesn't have to, because it knows exactly where the fight's going to happen. And you see one rookie cornerback show up at the 1 yard line like it's his job, because it is. This is episode 2 of the Carolina Panthers 100. This is Panthers at 49ers, week 10, 1995. And this is the 1 yard line game. Before we get to the 1 yard line, I want to start where Tyrone Poole actually starts. Not in the NFL, not in a highlight, in LaGrange, Georgia, and in a life that, by his own telling, begins in humble circumstances and runs straight through the part of the story you don't normally hear about on Sundays. Because when you watch Poole in this game, the thing that stands out isn't coverage technique. It's urgency. It's pursuit. It's the sense that the ball is not a souvenir, it's a resource. And that comes from somewhere. The first thing to know is he's a two-sport guy, football and track. And track matters here, because track teaches you a certain kind of honesty. There's no scheme in the 200 meters. There's no coordinator to blame. If you're late, you're late. And if you're fast, you're fast. Track is the sport where film study is just watching yourself lose. One detail that's easy to miss if you only meet him as an NFL player. Poole's own story includes the idea of walking away, quitting football as a high school senior, and then finding his way back into the game. That matters to me because it suggests this isn't a straight line success story. It's a decision story. A person choosing, re-choosing, and then building a life around the second choice. Then it's Fort Valley State, a small school in the national conversation, mostly when someone like this forces the conversation to happen. Poole starts 41 of 42 games and finishes with 17 interceptions in college. He's also a punt returner, 70 returns, 234 yards, 13.3 yards a return. So he's not just defending space, he's flipping space, and that's the through line. At Fort Valley State, he also competes in track, school record in the 200 meters, and second in the national finals. And by his own bio, he's one of the very rare athletes in school history to reach All-American status in both football and track. So when you watch him chase a play down from behind at the goal line, you're not watching a quarterback do something random. You're watching a track athlete do what track athletes do, close ground. And then, in 1995, he's the 22nd overall pick, a corner from Fort Valley State, entering a league that loves prototypes and pedigrees. You can call that unlikely, or you can call it what it is. A player showing up with a resume the league could not ignore. All that is the front end of the same story. Because a guy with that background doesn't treat red zone plays like almost. He treats them like now or never. And that brings us to Candlestick, to the defending champions, to a day where Carolina gets outgained by 200 yards and still wins. Because Tyrone Poole understands something early. The ball's not an object, it's a resource. And the betting line tells you what the world thought this would be. San Francisco by 14, over under 40. That's not, we think San Francisco's better. That's, we think Carolina's an expansion team, and we'd like to get home early. 14 points is not a spread. It's a statement. Carolina arrives 3-5. On paper, still a new franchise trying to become real. But something had changed in the last month. They had started 0-5, and then they'd won 3 straight. Jets, Saints, and then the overtime win in Foxborough. So this trip to San Francisco isn't just a road game. It's a test. Was that streak just timing, or was it identity? And San Francisco is the defending Super Bowl champion. But the week leading up to this game, the story was quarterback, and it wasn't a comfortable story. Steve Young is still dealing with a bruised throwing shoulder, and the local reporting in the Bay made it sound like even he didn't know if he could be himself yet. George Seifert even suggested he might wait until right before kickoff to name his starter. Elvis Gerback, Young's backup, assumed he would start. And Young, who's already a legend at this point, sounds frustrated. He talks about the difference between functional and being actually able to throw a football. So, you've got the defending champs, a home crowd, but a team in a weird emotional place, trying to survive a season where the quarterback engine is misfiring. And here comes Carolina, quietly, not flashy, not famous, but increasingly sure of what they want games to feel like. Episode 2 is a Tyrone Poole episode, and if you're building a franchise from scratch, if you're trying to become an NFL team real time, this is exactly the player you pray you drafted. At Fort Valley State, he put up the kind of ball production that makes scouts uncomfortable, because it forces them to admit talent doesn't only live in the biggest schools. He finished his career in college with 17 interceptions, and he wasn't just a cover guy, he also ran track with legit sprint credentials. And as a rookie, in this game he's not asked to be perfect. He's asked to be violent at the catch point. He's asked to tackle. He's asked to show up when the field shrinks, and the field shrinks down to 1 yard, twice. So here's the thesis of this episode. Carolina wins this game without an offense. They win it with 1, a field goal kicker who never flinches, 2, a veteran defensive back who steals a touchdown, and 3, a rookie corner who steals 2 touchdowns without scoring one. And to really appreciate that, we've got to do this like a game book, quarter by quarter. Because the story of this game is not one moment. It's a series of moments where San Francisco reaches the edge of the end zone and then gets pushed back into the ocean. If you only remember one number from this game, remember this. San Francisco gains 404 yards. Carolina gains 204. That's the shape of the afternoon. But here's the twist. San Francisco turns it over 5 times. Carolina turns it over 2 times. So the question becomes, how do you gain double the yards and still lose by 6? Answer, you keep visiting the red zone and leaving your wallet on the curb. Opening drive. San Francisco comes out like a team that expects to win. They're moving the ball with Gerback. Short completions, rhythm stuff. And Carolina's defense is doing that early 1995 Panthers thing. They hit, they rally, they don't panic. And then we get the first hinge. A completion to Brent Jones. Ball comes out. Sam Mills recovers. And that matters, because that's not just a fumble. That's the defense telling the offense, hey, you don't have to be great. You just have to be alive. Carolina turns that into points. John Casey field goal. And right there, the game becomes what Carolina wants. Low scoring, field position. One mistake becomes a possession. If you're San Francisco, that's annoying. If you're an expansion team, that's a business model. Then, San Francisco drives again. And this is where the first, are you serious? moment happens. The drive continues, and they're inside the 10. This is where champions score touchdowns, and then the pass that shouldn't be thrown becomes the pass that changes the day. Gerback is trying to throw it away. Seifert even says afterward that is what Elvis told him, but he doesn't get quite enough on it. Tim McKyer jumps it and takes it 96 yards to the house for a touchdown. And McKyer, never shy, later explains the basic truth. If you're going to throw it away, make sure you throw it away. Carolina now leads 10-0, and the way they got there is important. Not with offense, with theft. Second quarter, Carolina finally makes the mistake that should bring the 49ers back. Kerry Collins and fullback Howard Griffith collide. Ball comes loose. San Francisco recovers on the Carolina 20, and this is the moment where a normal game resets. This is the moment where the crowd wakes up, and San Francisco does what good teams do. They get into position to score. It's 3rd and 2 from the 12. Jerry Rice catches the ball, turns upfield, and in a lot of games, that's the touchdown. But here comes Tyrone Poole. He's trailing the play. He's chasing from behind, and he doesn't go for the tackle. He goes for the ball. Poole knocks it out at the 1-yard line, and it goes through the end zone for a touchback. That's a touchdown erased without a highlight reel hit, just precision and violence with purpose. And in the press afterward, the way this loss hit the locker room is bleak. Tim McDonald says, "We're hurting," and then he basically spirals out loud, calling it a nightmare. Because it's not just the turnover, it's where it happened. It's the feeling of being the better team without being the winning team. Carolina takes that touchback and bleeds clock. Not with big plays, just with survival. And they end the half the way they started it, John Casey field goal. And now it's 13-0. And if you're San Francisco, you're thinking, we've outgained them, we've lived in their territory, we've made their offense look small, and we're down 13. Well, that's a psychological problem. At halftime, Kerry Collins' numbers tell the truth. He's not carving anybody up. This is a rookie quarterback on the road, trying not to lose. And San Francisco's numbers tell a different truth. They can move the ball, but not finish. So halftime becomes a question. Does San Francisco get desperate? Or do they stay patient and trust the math? Carolina's answer is simpler. Can you keep living on defense? The third quarter opens, and San Francisco comes out again like, all right, enough, we're scoring now. But first, Carolina makes its own mistake. Kerry Collins throws an interception. Tyrone Drakeford takes it, and this is where a typical upset dies. Because usually, the underdog gives the favorite short fields. Usually, the dam breaks. Carolina doesn't break. San Francisco drives. They complete passes. They're cooking. And then John Taylor catches one, turns upfield. And once again, the ball's headed towards the end zone. And once again, Tyrone Poole shows up at the 1. He forces another fumble at the goal line. Sam Mills recovers again. So now Poole has essentially taken 2 touchdowns off the board, without an interception, without a sack, without any statistic a casual fan would remember. This is the kind of cornerback play that doesn't show up in fantasy football. It shows up in history. And the numbers back it up. Poole finishes with 11 tackles in this game. He's not just making the big moment. He's in the fabric of every series. Early fourth, San Francisco finally breaks through. They punch in a 1-yard touchdown run, and now it's 13-7. And now the game becomes what every ugly upset becomes in the last quarter. A clock fight, a punt exchange, test of nerves. San Francisco gets the ball back and starts moving again. And then we get one of the funniest and most perfect details from the post-game paperwork. Tony Zendejas lines up for a 32-yard field goal. He misses it in a way the Deseret recap says almost defies description. And the quote sheet explanation is incredible. Zendejas says, "I hit the top of the grass with my foot." That's the most 1995 sentence ever spoken, but it matters, because that miss is oxygen Carolina doesn't have to give back. From there, Carolina does what teams do when they're trying to steal a road win. They don't chase points. They chase time. They punt. They tackle. They trust the defense. And late, when Gerbeck gets hurt, San Francisco ends up with third-string Gary Conklin trying to manufacture a miracle. He hits a big completion to Rice on 4th down, just enough to make your stomach tighten, and then it dies, and Carolina survives. Final, Panthers 13, 49ers 7. Now we do the autopsy, because this is where the game becomes educational. San Francisco, 404 total yards, 19 first downs, 339 net passing yards. Carolina, 204 yards, 13 first downs, 132 net passing yards. That's not a typo, and that's not balance. That's a team getting outgained by 200 yards. So why did Carolina win? Turnovers. Carolina commits 5 turnovers, including multiple possessions that die on the 1-yard line. And here's the thing that's hardest to teach new fans. Turnovers aren't just luck. They're pressure. They're pursuit angles. They're rookies making veteran decisions. And that's Tyrone Poole today. And the press afterward captures the weird truth. Yes, Carolina is proud, But even Tim McKyer, the guy who scored the only Panthers touchdown, points out that this isn't the same 49ers team from last year. He calls it a different team, talks about injuries taking a toll, and that can be true. But it can also be true that Carolina came to Candlestick Park and played a grown-up football game. Carolina became the first expansion team to beat the defending Super Bowl champion. Panthers coach Dom Capers calls it a very special day, not because it was pretty, because it was real. This win is the 4th straight for Carolina, an expansion record. And that matters because expansion teams aren't supposed to stack weeks like this. They're supposed to be a novelty, a cute story, a learning experience. But over this month, the Panthers aren't learning how to win. They're learning what kind of winning they can afford. And they can't afford shootouts. And they can't afford perfection. So they become a team built on defense that attacks the ball, special teams that takes points when they're available, and an offense that understands the assignment. Don't be the reason. And if you ever want to explain how the 1996 Panthers are coming, this is one of the first real breadcrumbs. So here's why Tyrone Poole gets this episode. Because the camera loves interceptions, and the camera loves touchdowns. But football games, real football games, swing on whether someone shows up at the exact moment the field gets tight. Twice today, San Francisco had a touchdown. Twice, Poole erased it at the 1. That's not luck. That's a rookie understanding that the ball is the game, and that if you can't stop the drive, you can still stop the points. San Francisco walks out of this game feeling like it hit rock bottom. Tim McDonald basically says exactly that. And Carolina walks out knowing something important. They can travel. They can survive. And they can make a heavyweight fight look ugly. And for an expansion team, ugly is a compliment. Because ugly means you control the shape of the day. And now we mark it. Next time we stay in 1995, but we shift the lens. Because the Panthers didn't just win games like this. They built a personality out of them. And Episode 3 is going to put that personality in the hands of a rookie quarterback in a stadium that finally feels like home. And I'll see you there.